Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here, New Life Pentecostal Church, Albany, Georgia. Jesus said, pay your tithes. Now, we could do a study on tithes, have before, that it was in Abram's day, it was before the law, Jacob's day, it was before the law, blessings, Malachi, that it just seems like something that is eternal, that God just wants. I know Brother Art Hodges, he goes all the way back to the garden about how God wanted a tithe and all this kind of stuff. But Jesus said, now a lot of people say, Jesus said pay your tithes? I never saw that in the New Testament. If you'll go to the book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 23, it says this, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin. Now, these are basically things, you can go in the grocery store. I live right by a Publix, and you can go to the section, the spice section, all that, and see basically these spices, and they're very little. So if they got they said 10% to God, 10% to God, because God owns it. And then Jesus said, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. And what Jesus was sitting here condemning them for, but then there's an incidental attribution of paying your tithes here. What Jesus is saying is, you go to that, why don't you go to that thing, that much minutia to follow God. Why don't you do judgment right? Why don't you do mercy right? Why don't you do faith right? But then Jesus says, these ought ye to have done, judgment, mercy, and faith, and not to leave the other undone. Jesus said, of course you should pay your tithes. You're doing the right thing. Just don't swallow a gnat. Strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Don't miss the point. So Jesus said, pay your tithes. For ye pay tithe of mint and anise, cumin, and have committed the weightier matters of law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Jesus said, keep paying your tithes, but do the other stuff also. God bless you. I love you in Jesus' name.